Welcome. I'm the Deadwood Jedi. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video, and we are going to begin that dungeon series going on right now. Basically, how to beat the different dungeons. So we're going to start off here with Dragon. It's the tournament going on right now, as you know, for 2-time speed sets. We got that Dungeon Frenzy, as they like to call it here. It's going on for 72 hours, so there's 3 days of this happening, and it is the best time to get speed gear, guys. I mean, I don't know about you. For me, I am farming that nonstop. I am dumping all of my energy into it. That's just, I figured that's going to be the best way for me to get good gear, is to get speed gear. And there's no better time to farm Dragon than right now. So I'm dumping a lot of my energy. I'm doing gear cleanses. I'm trying to make sure that I can get the best gear possible. So that's what's happening right now. And as you know, kind of in a way to celebrate this, maybe not. But more importantly, a way to connect with you guys, give some gems and stuff back to you. I am having that Game On contest going on right now. So just if you don't remember, all you got to do is clip a Game On video of your Dragon run. It can be interesting, it can be fast, it can be complete horrible fail type of team. I don't really care what it is or what level it's at. I'm going to pick the teams that I think that tickle my fancy the most. So that might be the best possible team, might be using unusual champions, or it might just be an epic fail team. I don't really know. I'm excited just to see what you guys bring. I don't care about the level. I don't care about the champions. Just show me something different. That's really, I think, what I'll be looking for more than anything else. But show me your team. It's in just do a Game On clip. All you have to do is put one of these hashtags next to the team and the appropriate dungeon you're using, and then make sure to include your Discord name and number in the description of the video. It would really help if you are a member of my Discord as well. That is something I'm going to ask that you do as well, just to make sure that I can connect with you guys to give you your rewards if you win. So I want to make sure you guys are all aware of that. That said, let's go ahead and talk about Dragon. We're going to talk about different ways you can approach it, different ways to beat it, what's important and what you don't need to worry about. So let's get into it. So first thing we should do is kind of go over the sets. I'll do this briefly because I figure if you're farming it, you can see what's there. It's all right here on the side, the different sets that drop. But something that we want to know is, what are we prioritizing? What are we looking for? Obviously, speed is key. It's crucial in every part of this game, and the more speed you have, the more often your champions get to go, the more damage they can do as a result. I'd much rather have a champion that doesn't hit as hard but goes faster than a champion that hits really hard but never gets a chance to go. If you can't attack, doesn't matter how hard you could hit. So speed is crucial, obviously. The other sets you're really going to be wanting to focus on here. Accuracy. Accuracy is so important in all parts of this game. You really can't do you can't land your debuffs if you don't have accuracy, so that's absolutely crucial. Another thing that's really crucial, I think, is stalwart gear. This is one of the best sets in this game, and it obviously reduces the amount of damage you take from AoE attacks. This helps in every boss fight you will ever encounter, but it also really helps with Clan Boss. Easily the most important set in Clan Boss at the moment. The other one for most of you, which is going to be the most important set for most of you guys outside of speed, is going to end up being Lifesteal, because it's such a lifesaver, especially in the early to mid part of this game. Even in the late game, Lifesteal is really crucial. I have Tyrant in Lifesteal who can solo Spider 20 for me, and that's what helps keep him alive. So Lifesteal is good all the way from the beginning to the very end game for you. Now, as you get later on, you find other ways to heal, other ways to mitigate damage. It's not as important as you go through, and there's so many leech champions out there and healers that have been introduced to the game. It doesn't have the same place of god tier sets as it used to, but it's still incredibly useful. And when you're early game, it makes it so much easier to gear your champions because you don't have to worry as much about healing up. Just have them do damage and they'll heal themselves up. So it's a really crucial set. Now with the rest of them, they're situational, right? Avenging can be good in certain arena builds, even some normal dungeon builds too. Same thing with Toxic can be good in certain Clan Boss builds. Not really used. Destroy you're going to need for the Scarab King. Frost is actually really good in Arena, and Daze is pretty much useless. So out of all these sets, there's 4 that are really good, and there's another 4 that are pretty situational, but still pretty decent. So most of these sets are going to be useful for you. Now, of course, the question is, how do we farm? Where do we farm? I went over in my last video about how the different dungeon drops. You're going to want to be primarily focused on stage 24 if you can. We got this like little sheet here kind of showing the different drop rates that we have for everything. So you can see here the 5 stars to 6 star stuff. When you go from stage 20 to 25, it improves, but only 1% per level. So the difference between 25 and 20 is noticeable, but the difference between 24 and 20 is minuscule. So we really want to find the most efficient thing. Now, stage 24 only costs 18 energy, whereas stage 25 costs 20. So stage 24 is the most efficient area to farm. The legendary rate is going to be a lot higher than on stage 20. Same thing with the epic, but the difference between that and stage 25 is minimal considering the energy cost. So if you can farm it at a decent speed, you want to farm stage 24. If you can't farm 24 at a decent speed, you're going to want to farm stage 20. Stage 25 is really only for those people that can farm it quickly and have no care in the world about energy consumption. So you're talking about the whales, we're talking about the people that are willing to spend money on this game. No knock on that, but it's not going to be as energy efficient as stage 24 would be. So my recommendation for pretty much everybody out there, stage 24 is what you're going to want to do. If you're trying to compete in a tournament or a dungeon, stage 20 is actually going to give you the best bang for your buck energy-wise. Time-wise, a whole different story, but energy-wise, stage 20 is going to be better than 24 or 25 per energy. And also, because you're probably going to be farming it faster, it's also going to be much better per time spent as well. And that's going to be important when you're trying to compete in one of those time-sensitive events. Let's go ahead and let's actually look at these runs, look at these teams, and figure out the best ways to go about it. Now, there's a big difference between stage 20 and earlier and stage 21 and 25. So from 21 to 25, obviously we can't use max HP damage dealers. At least on the boss, it's only going to reduce 10% of their health. It's not going to do any more than that. So there's a variety of ways you can actually deal damage to the boss. So while we're doing this, let me go ahead and run my stage 24 team. The big thing with these dungeon runs, if you're trying to go fast, the big thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get the waves out of the way. The boss has a lot of health. You're going to have to go through it a few times. It's the waves that kill us. So the faster we can go through the waves, the faster our run in general is going to be and the more successful it's going to be. So that's one of the focuses you're going to want to have. So you're going to see most speed teams still have Seer. Even though she's a max HP champion, she's still in those comps because she's going to clear through those waves so quickly. In that same vein, you could still use like a Royal Guard or something, though I wouldn't probably recommend it. There's better wave cleansers or cleaners than like a Royal Guard would be. But you can see that burn right there, the Karma burn. It only did 10% of the dragon's HP. It's not a huge amount. So in order to get the dragon down, we're going to have to bring individual damage dealers. Now, I'm using Draco here, who gives me lots of poisons, gives me that decreased defense weaken, and will do raw damage. But there's lots of good single target damage dealers or AoE damage dealers that you could use in place of this. There's a variety of them, though, right? Single target hitters are not rare in this game. It's a pretty common thing to have around. So I'm sure you can find some that you can bring in. The key then is getting through the waves. And as you saw, Seer is phenomenal at this. Now, when you go through the higher stages 21 through 25, it's very difficult because you have to get a lot of buffs up and get that decreased defense and weaken out on the enemy. Because just, 2 or 3 isn't going to do it. Now, how do you get through those waves, right? There's a couple of ways. Obviously, you can use champion like Seer. She's going to be phenomenal. But what do we do when we don't have Seer? That's a real big question and conundrum. So we can take a team like this and we just bring in a few different champions instead. Now, there's a couple things you're probably going to want to do. If you can't wipe the waves out in one shot, you're going to need to bring some kind of protection, some kind of healing, some kind of control, something along those lines. So you could bring in a champion like Vogoth to help mitigate some of that damage. You could bring in, let's see, who else do we have here that I could use? You can still use a Tyrell to get a decreased defense out there and single target decreased attack. You can use champions like Tyrant to get HP burn going as well as ally protection and keep people alive. In addition to that, I'm literally just going through this and picking out people. You can take Visix. Visix has been reworked. She has ally protection. She also has a speed debuff. Some wonderful things that she has on her kit there that can help us go through this. Now, I do have Draco in here, and I think he's a good choice because getting poisons out is an excellent way to go about this. So instead of that, maybe I want to bring in, maybe instead of Tyrell, I want to bring in some healing of some sort. I could bring in a Doom Priest, for example. So we could go with a team like this. There's not a lot of heavy damage dealers in this. I haven't even speed tuned this at all for this particular approach. We'll kind of just see how it goes. But you can see getting those decreased defense, getting the speed reduction out there is actually really helpful. Because what did I talk about in the beginning? If you don't get a chance to go, doesn't matter how hard you hit. Well, getting decreased speed on the enemy kind of does the same thing. Reducing their speed makes it so they can't hit us. That's an incredibly beneficial way to go about doing this. Now, I'm not talking about specific teams. You can tell that, right? I'm talking about champions, how to build your team. We all have different champions on our account, right? And I know a lot of the content creators show a variety of different teams that can do these runs extremely fast or extremely well. And that's really great. When you have those champions, it's really useful. I use those videos all the time to kind of figure out how do I want to go about that next stage. But I always find the most fun part about this game, and the hardest part, is trying to figure out the synergies and the strategies on your own. So this video is kind of more designed for that. What kind of strategies do we want to bring in? What are the things we need to take down the dragon? Now, when you're talking Dragon 20 to Dragon 1 to Dragon 20, basically, not only do you need to survive and do all the things I'm going to be talking about with these later stages, but you also have to bring in some real damage. And there's ways to make those runs a lot faster by bringing in Cold Heart, by bringing in Royal Guard, by using Seer, because those max HP damage will take down the HP of the dragon itself really quickly. And that's very, very effective. But that's not the only way to go about doing it. We don't always have those champions. It took me over a year to get a Cold Heart, for example. And by the time I got a Royal Guard, I wasn't even using him. It took me forever to even level him up. So that's not always an option for us. The other option we have is to just try and build our teams to survive and do damage over time. So in this type of a team, we're bringing poisons, we're bringing HP burn, we have a couple ally protection champions, and then we still have Vogoth there healing us up as we go. You saw we lost Doom Priest. She might not be kitted out at all, maybe, but our team's still surviving. We're still getting through this. Now, it's not a fast run, right? We're 2 minutes, we're still not to the boss yet. That's okay. You don't have to be super fast all the time. You know, sometimes going a little bit slower, as long as it's a safe run, will work. And at the different levels that you're going at, you're obviously going to be able to speed things up. If you have a Seer, you're going to get through those waves faster. If you have I don't even know, Royal Guard, a Cold Heart, those early stages, it'll go through faster. We don't have a lot of AoE champions in here. And that's actually something I would like to bring. This is kind of a different build here, right? So you can see, you know, we're using poisons to take down the dragon, and basically we're just trying to get there. But we don't have a lot of AoE champions in this. The dragon itself is going to take us less time than the waves would. If I were trying to speed tune this, considering we can get through here, we're staying alive, now I know, hey, I don't need Doom Priest for this. I can bring in a different cleanser if I wanted to, or I can bring in an AoE champion that's going to be able to knock out those waves considerably faster. And there you go. 3.5 minutes. It's not super fast, but now we can go back and say, hey, how can we speed this up? Well, maybe we don't need AoE from Tyrant, you know? Maybe we don't need Doom Priest in there either. What can we bring in instead to make this going? We know the poisons from Draco work great. We know the healing from Vogoth is really helpful. So what other things can we bring in to make this work for us? Well, one thing we can do is we have Visix slowing them down. We don't have anybody speeding us up. So let's go ahead and get ourselves a speed champion, right? Archmage Helmet, great champion for this. Has an AoE stun, gives us increased crit rate and crit damage. Really good champion for this type of thing. Who else could we bring in? You know, someone else we could try to bring in? We could try to bring in a Taurus and see how that works. So let's look, make sure these champions are kitted out here. Okay, so I got Archmage kitted out. I got Taurus kitted out. Now, I know some of you are going to be like, Draco. I get it. I totally do. So I went ahead and I kitted out somebody else for us here. Tyrell. So basically I have all epics in here except for Visix, who is, you know, one of the champions that you get from the login rewards. So we don't have to use Visix, just a really good champion. Sylar would do wonders too. I think that would be a good choice. Now I have both of these two in lifesteal so they can make sure that they heal up. And we'll just kind of see how this goes. But the idea is that we are speeding ourselves up or slowing them down. We are also putting out poison so we can deal damage. We're trying to get raw damage where we can, and that's mostly from Tyrell. We're going to get decreased defense. Another thing that Visix brings, I should say Vogoth brings, which is really good, is Provoke. Provoke is really good. When you can control the enemy, you don't have to worry as much about them hitting you. And you can see we're getting pretty effective turnout right here because of that. So we're able to take these guys down pretty quickly, very reliably, without having to worry too much about them killing us. Now, we'll see how long this lasts, if we can go through the full fight or not. But because we have so much speed, because they are so slow, and we're provoking them, we're stunning them, we're not giving them a chance to hurt us, and that's going to allow us to get through these waves fairly quickly. It's not the fastest run, but this is how you go about it. So how do we make this faster? That's the next question, right? More damage, basically. So we're going to bring in champions that do more damage for us. So right now, Taurus is doing a ton of poison, and that's really great for us. And we have Vogoth healing us. Well, maybe we don't need Vogoth. Maybe we can use somebody else instead. Maybe we don't need Archmage Helmet. Maybe we just up the damage of the champions that we are using so that when they attack, they are more effective at their attacks. If you're somebody that's struggling with getting through stage 20 or so, if you're an earlier account, newer account, don't feel bad. Don't feel like you have to go to stage 25. You don't. The stage 20 stuff is really just as good as stage 24. The difference is that higher percentage chance of drop rates. But here's the thing. All we want is 5-star stuff and 6-star stuff. The earlier level account you are, the more useful that rare gear is going to be for you. The 5-star gear is going to be for you. I still have 5-star gear on pretty much all of my champions. It's not like it's 6-star or bust. That's not the case. And if stage 25 only drops 6-star gear, that would change what's important here and how important it is, but it doesn't. It just doesn't. It's not crucial. So honestly, stage 20 stuff is just fine. In fact, I would recommend it for a lot of people, depending on your account level. When you're at a higher end level account like myself, where you're pretty much end game, you don't really, stage 20 is fine and it's good, and I'll still farm it for like Ice Golem or Fire Knight, where my stage 24 teams just aren't that fast. But for stage 20, but for Dragon, I can get a little faster. For Spiders, I can get a little faster. So I'll generally farm a little higher. It's just about improving those drop rates, because the level of gear that I need to improve my team is going to be a little different than some of yours. But you can see, this team, it's not as fast as the team you just did, but it's still effective because you're still bringing in the necessary things. Now, you need decreased defense. Ideally, you get weakened with it too, because that's going to help you hit harder on those wave champions. It's going to help you hit harder against the dragon here as well. But the other thing you're probably going to want is poisons. Now, you see that purple bar up there? That's that little preparation the dragon does to do that big breath. That purple bar, if you can knock it down, then the dragon will do a normal attack instead. And one of the best ways to knock it down is with poisons. Poisons do amazing work against these dungeons. So don't want to neglect that. It's a great way to knock these bosses down a peg or two. It's a really, really good way to do it. Raw damage is great too, if you can bring that out. So if you can bring in somebody that does that, and there you go, 4 minutes or so. All right, so we have kind of a weird team going on here. I brought in Reliquary Tender to give us some healing. To be honest, it's probably not going to be enough. We're probably going to be in a little bit of trouble because we just don't have enough healing on this team. But it's definitely possible. We do have Deacon, who's one of my favorites for this type of team. Lots of speed, AoE decreased defense, puts a leech on the dragon, which actually may help us with the healing problem. Aethar's going to give us some poisons. We have Skullcrown in here for the waves. We have Sylar for to decrease the speed. We don't have decreased attack, and that could actually be a real big issue, especially once we hit the dragon, but we'll see what happens here. Not every test has to be successful, but we can look at it and see what happens. My guess is going to be there's 2 issues if we fail. One is we don't have decreased attack to help us survive, and 2 is we don't have enough healing. So we're going to see if that happens. We also don't have ally protection. There's a few things we don't have in this to make it ideal, but there's no legendaries. We're trying, some different stuff here to see what can happen. And then once we see what we're missing, that's going to allow us to improve our build. So we finally get through that, and here we go on to the next round. Now, again, Sylar's great about keeping those speeds down. Also, the decreased accuracy debuff she puts on, it's really good to make sure that we don't get stunned or frozen or whatever it is, depending on the waves. You can see Skullcrown's going to do some work there as an AoE champion. Now, my Skullcrown's really slow. She's not ideal for this, and like I said, I haven't speed tuned it, but one of the things you're going to want to do is get everybody pretty decent speed, like around 200, if not faster, so that they can get multiple attacks every time before the enemy goes. Getting that AoE stun is out there is pretty nice. I have Sylar in a stun set, which helps a lot. But yeah, this idea, the concept here is what I'm talking about, right? We're doing damage to get through the waves. We're slowing them down and speeding us up, both of which are useful. You don't need both, but they help. We have some healing. Having a reser like a Reliquary Tender is really nice if you have an Arbiter or somebody else that can do that job. That's really good too. Broadma's actually been reworked, I think, in a pretty good way, so that might be a very solid free to play option for people. And then we have some poisons in Aethar, and I think poisons is really key getting through the dragon boss. If you're not using max HP champions or you don't have an awesome legendary that can do crazy damage for you, getting poisons on the boss is super, super helpful and will work really well. Okay, we're finally to the boss here. You can see as we go through it, we'll see exactly how much we can do. Now, can't affect the turn meter. That's always an issue. We got the decreased accuracy that hopefully will help a little bit, avoiding some of the poisons that the boss puts on. And we got that leech out there. Now, so we have a chance to heal ourselves back up. The question is, can we survive this hit? And we need to get poisons out there to make sure that purple bar drops. You saw the purple bar dropped considerably. That's what we needed right there. We get the cleanse from Reliquary Tender, which is really nice for if we don't knock that down, the dragon stuns you. So getting that out is good. We have the healing there. We have the leech on the boss, so we're able to heal ourselves back up. We have all the things that we need to be successful. Now it's just about letting it run and go along. We actually even have decreased attack from Reliquary Tender. It's a small one, but it's still out there, which is great. And she brings us back up. So we don't have to have super tanky people because Reliquary Tender can heal us back up, which is great. And because of all the speed boosts from what's his name? From Deacon, her revive comes back up pretty regularly. So this is a pretty solid team. It's not fast by any means. As you can see, we're going to be about 5 minutes long on this, but it's super, super effective. And there you go. It's about 6 minutes long, not fast at all, but it does the job. And this is what you're going to want to do. And this kind of team works for any stage of Dragon. You're getting poisons out, you're controlling the turn meter, controlling the fight, and you are surviving, right? That's all you need. You have some healing. A revive is really, really useful for these dungeons. Getting those poisons is crucial, and then surviving. And that's pretty much it. Doesn't matter what stage you're at. Now, there's a couple different ways you can go about doing the surviving part, right? Like in this team, we do have Reliquary Tender for some heals, but our healing is mostly coming actually from the Leech of Deacon. We used Vogoth earlier. You can use the Bad El'Kazar very easily. There's plenty of champions that can give you the healing you want. I've seen a lot of teams that use Arbiter out there. So there's lots of approaches to that. So as far as crowd control, right? Keeping them under control. That we're talking about the speed debuff, increasing our speed. There's other ways to do it. You can use provoke sets to make sure that they're locked in so the waves can't hurt us. You can use frost sets, or I should say freeze abilities to make sure that they get locked down. Stun sets are really, really helpful. There's a variety of ways to keep the waves under control and then allow yourselves to continue to get your turns. Speed up champions are really good. Champions like Haikatoon that can reduce their turn meter and increase yours are really, really good for things like this. Obviously, if you have a Seer or a Zavia or an Elinaro, somebody that can nuke big waves, that's really, really useful. But we don't always have that, right? And so what you want to bring is champions generally that can do AoE skills to do as much damage to those waves as much as possible. That was a 6-minute run. About half the time was on the dungeon, or was on the dragon. About the other half was on the waves. In fact, the majority of the time was on the waves. So getting through the waves is what's going to speed you up the most. Now, we brought in Skullcrown. Didn't work as good as I had remembered, so maybe that's not the champion we bring in, but there's a lot of champions that do AoE damage that can hit really hard, or even single target damage dealers that can do that at a significant pace would be good for us. So there's a variety of ways to go about doing this, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, is just, you know, different approaches to taking down these bosses. A lot of times you see videos on specific teams. We don't always have that champion, so how do we go about doing this? You know, protection involves ally protection, involves shields. It does involve healing to some degree. Those are great ways, but another way to protect yourself is obviously control the enemy. And as far as the dragon goes, making sure that you get enough poisons on so that purple bar falls, that's a great way to avoid getting stunned and stay in sync and not be overwhelmed by the dragon, because that stun attack is really what usually kills you. She stuns you, and then she hits you again, so avoiding that's really good. And that's kind of today's video. I know it's kind of a quick hitter. It's not a super, like, use these specific champions, but I think there's a lot of lessons in here, right? Approaches to this game. And you can see you don't need legendaries to be able to beat these high-level stages. Now, granted, my champions do have good gear on. It's not great gear. I really did just throw this together. So I'll go ahead in my game on video down below. I'm going to show you the builds. I'll show you the individual champions because this video is getting a little bit on the longer side, and I don't want to waste time going through the individual gear here. I think that's not really what you need to see. So I'll have that on the Game On video if you're interested to see what these champions have. But it's honestly, it's nothing crazy. I think you can see here, he doesn't have anything super wild on. 34,000 HP, almost 4,000 attack, like 157 speed. There's nothing super crazy going on with these champions as far as the gear that I have on them. So a couple of them are better built than others, but especially with this group right here, it's nothing wild. So this stuff is very doable for all stages. And as I said, on Dragon 20, it's so much easier because you bring in a Royal Guard, you bring in a Cold Heart, and you just hit that dragon hard. And it just makes those run super, super fast. Yeah, there's some crazy builds out there, and I definitely recommend that you go check out other content creators and how they build their champions. But I want to kind of cover like the approach that I take, the theory crafting of how to go about taking down this dungeon. These are kind of things I think about. How do I get AoE decreased defense? Can I get AoE decrease attack? I love Stag Knight for that type of thing. Dux is a great champion. How do I protect myself? Is a miscreated monster with ally protection? Visix is really good for that type of thing. How am I controlling the enemies? Am I putting stuns out there? Am I just reducing their turn meter like with a Sylar or a Visix? Or am I doing some kind of provoke like an Angar could do? Or a bunch of other champions can kind of do provoke out there for us. And you know, what am I doing for damage? How am I getting poisons out? Like an Aethar is really good for that. Even Frozen Banshee can be really good for the boss. You know, different ways to go about taking down that damage. Or am I bringing single target damage dealers like Cydo or Cold Heart or Royal Guard or whatnot? Those are the things I think about. And you take those pieces and you put them together, and that's how you get your team. And then from there, you can improve it. You speed them up, you slow them down, you watch the run, and you see, hey, where are we failing and why? What are we having success in and why? Do I need this champion to go before this champion to make sure we get decreased defense out there, or we slow them down enough? Those are the things you're going to want to look at. So that's the video today. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. And if it was, hit that like, subscribe, please. Hit that Game On link down below. Make sure that you guys submit for the contest. I'm giving away God, how many gems am I giving away? Like 5,000 gems doing this. But show me your best dragon team. I want to see it. Your favorite dragon team. I want to see it. A weird dragon team. I want to see it. Just make sure to use those appropriate hashtags. So yeah, looking forward to seeing those guys till next we meet. I'm the Deadwood Jedi.